It was my last day in Saskatoon, and I was driving to the airport. But I wasn't flying home. I was picking up a special guest.
Hey, Dad.
Hello. Hello.
Welcome to Saskatoon.
Every year when I leave Saskatoon in the fall, I have someone fly in to visit me, and then we drive home together. This time, it was my dad's turn. So I showed him around all my favorite spots in Saskatoon, then took him to meet the rabbi. Being the secular man that he is, I was a little nervous about that meeting, but they seemed to get along just fine.
Can you do kind of like you know, two presidents meet, kind of like an official handshake? But like, look at the camera, exactly.
They even liked each other.
Fantastic.
So we loaded up all the equipment that I had stored at the rabbi's shed while in Saskatoon. And the next day, with a well-organized van, we checked out of the hotel and got breakfast, did some pre-trip maintenance, and hit the road.
איזה חורנים אנחנו?
מה חורנים?
על שולחן, זה שולחן החיתוך שלנו, our cutting board. We're such חורניes.
That was Radium Hot Springs, just as you enter BC from Alberta. After the hot springs, we were entering the Kootenays, which was the region where I had all the car breakdowns 6 months earlier. If you need a refresher, watch episodes 3, 4, and 5. And I took the chance to fill my dad in with all the minute details of what exactly happened on that crazy trip.
But we didn't break down in Cranbrook, we broke down in Creston and got towed 150k to Cranbrook.
It was interesting to pass by all the spots where the pivotal events of that trip happened, but from the opposite direction. Like the shop of the Christian mechanics, and the exact spot of that first breakdown on that crazy night.
It was right here.
We would also pass by burnt down trees left over from the BC fires, which was an important part of my story in episode 10. It felt so good to have all those events behind me, and to finally be going home.
זה היה משהו שבלילה היה שם מתחם שריון של הצבא המצרי בסיני.
And when it became night, we would get into these long conversations about Israeli history and other topics that otherwise would never come up.
והוא באיזושהי צורה הצליח לחדור למתחם הזה עם הטנקים שלו.
There's something about night driving on dark and windy roads when all you can see are the yellow and white lines speeding under you for hours. It's a bit hypnotic, and every time I'm with another person, it stimulates deep conversations. There's something a bit magical about it. I didn't go home to Vancouver yet, but stayed with my family in Victoria for almost 2 weeks. I hung out with my brother, went to all the best bakeries, coffee shops, and bars, and rented scooters. But apart from having fun, I had to take care of some unfinished business. Remember the ordeal with the car dealership that sold me that bad van that got me into all that trouble? That headache was not resolved yet, and I was still stuck with that van, stored on a property where my parents were building a house. While I was away, me and my dad applied to take them to small claims court. The court date was on October 12th, exactly 6 months to the day after I had left on that nightmare road trip with my friend. This was more like a meeting with us and them and a judge to moderate an agreement between us. I was rather apprehensive about that meeting, to say the least.
כן, הוא שם אותי במצב שאני חותם על משהו שאני אפילו לא יודע שאיזה בעיה.
אם המוצר לא למחירה, אז איך אתה עושה חוזה מחירה? זה מה שצריך יהיה לשאול את השופט. אני אסתכל לו בפנים ואני אגיד לו, איך אתה עושה חוזה?
I'll spare you most of the details, but in the end, I agreed to take their offer on buying back the van for 2/3 of the price, because it wasn't worth it to escalate this to a proper court hearing, so I decided to cut my losses and move on with my life. And I went with my parents to pick up the van from the property where it had been sitting for 6 months.
אחרי כמה זמן זה? זה חצי שנה? כן.
That whole saga with the van was a massive headache for my parents, and they helped me tremendously.
Thanks, guys.
You are welcome.
So I'm driving the vehicle back to the dealership.
And after returning the van to the dealer and getting 2/3 of my money back, I closed the case with the court.
And it's done. This case closed. What a painful, ugly episode. So that's it. End of the season, everything is closed, and I can move on with my life for the rest of the year now.
By the time I went home, I was away for over 6 months. It had been a very dramatic and epic 6-month journey that year, an emotional roller coaster and one of the biggest adventures of my life. Without a doubt, that journey was one of the hardest things I've ever done. Looking back, I asked myself if it would have been better if things had gone smoother. And when I was in the thick of it, I probably would have wished so. But then, I wouldn't have had such an epic story to tell. And that part is priceless.